Picture this. You and your neighbor have always been close, borrowing a cup of sugar, keeping an eye on each other's homes during vacations, and never once arguing about where the property line falls. You celebrate holidays together, help shovel each other's driveways in winter, and even host the occasional backyard barbecue. It's the kind of relationship that makes the neighborhood feel like home, built on years of trust and small acts of kindness. That's the US and Canada, two countries that have been best friends for generations. They share the world's longest undefended border, a symbol of peace and cooperation, and their economies are deeply intertwined, with billions of dollars in trade flowing back and forth every day. For decades, they've relied on each other, not just as neighbors, but as partners. But then, everything changed. President Trump came into office and decided this long-standing friendship was actually a bad deal for America. He argued that the US was being taken advantage of and that things needed to change. So he slapped tariffs, essentially new taxes, on Canadian steel and aluminum, claiming it was necessary for national security. This move hit Canadian industries hard and sent shockwaves through both countries' economies. Suddenly, the neighborly trust that had taken decades to build was gone, replaced by confusion, frustration, and a sense of betrayal on Canada's side. Canadians couldn't believe their closest ally would treat them like a threat. The idea that Canadian steel was a danger to American security sounded almost laughable to many, but the Trump administration was completely serious. The message was clear. Friendship had its limits. This wasn't just a minor disagreement. It was a fundamental challenge to a relationship that had weathered wars, economic crises, and political changes for over a century. Suddenly, everything was up in the air. The announcement sent shockwaves through both countries, catching leaders, businesses, and ordinary people off guard. It set the stage for a trade war that no one had seen coming and few wanted. The once friendly neighborhood was now officially on notice. Trust had been replaced by suspicion, and everyone was waiting to see what would happen next. And just like that, the world's calmest border suddenly felt a lot more tense, as if a line had been drawn not just on the map, but between two old friends. Suddenly everyone was talking about tariffs. But what are they? Imagine buying sneakers from abroad for $100. Add a 25% tariff and now they cost $125. That extra $25. It's a tax on imports, meant to make foreign goods pricier, so you'll buy local. In theory, tariffs protect homegrown businesses and jobs. But if local options aren't as good or don't exist, you're stuck paying more. Tariffs hit everything from steel to ketchup, raising costs for companies. Those companies pass the cost to you, the consumer. So while tariffs target other countries, it's often your wallet that feels the pain. It's like your government fighting your neighbor, but you end up paying more for groceries. In a trade war, the real losers are often the people at home. President Trump's trade strategy played out like a season of reality TV, full of big reveals, bold claims, and a constant stream of drama that kept the world glued to every episode. He knew how to command attention, turning every policy announcement into must-see television and every negotiation into a cliffhanger. Trump declared that America was being ripped off by unfair trade deals, and he promised that tariffs would be the magic bullet to bring lost jobs back home. He painted a picture of shuttered factories roaring back to life, and American workers finally getting a fair shake. America First wasn't just a slogan. It became the rallying cry for his supporters, a promise that American interests would always come first, with tariffs as the weapon of choice to defend them. Trump threatened even more tariffs, sometimes overnight, keeping everyone guessing and the markets on edge. Investors, businesses, and even his own advisors were left scrambling to predict his next move. His unpredictable, high-stakes style was the strategy. Keep rivals off balance, force them to the negotiating table, and never let them see your next card. To his supporters, he was a tough negotiator, finally standing up for the American worker. To his critics, it was chaos, an unpredictable approach that risked economic stability. But the tariffs weren't just about dollars and cents. They were about sending a message to the world. America was no longer playing by the old rules, and everyone would have to adjust. Every announcement left journalists and analysts speculating. Would he double down, escalate the fight, or suddenly make a deal? No one, not even his closest allies, could say for sure. The global economy itself became a bargaining chip in this high-stakes game, with entire industries and international relationships hanging in the balance. The old rules of trade were out, the Trump doctrine was in. It was a new playbook, one that rewrote the script for how America would do business with the world. Whether you saw it as genius or reckless, one thing was certain: the world was watching, holding its breath, and bracing for whatever came next. The new era of trade had officially begun, and no one could predict where this unpredictable journey would lead. Wall Street hates surprises, and Trump's tariff announcement was a big one. Stocks tumbled as investors panicked over a looming trade war. Companies relying on global supply chains like Ford and GM were hit hardest. Tariffs meant higher costs for making cars, so investors bailed. Retailers like Walmart and Best Buy faced pricier imports, threatening profits and prices. Every presidential tweet sent markets soaring or plunging. The uncertainty made it impossible for businesses to plan. It was like building a house during an earthquake, unstable and risky. The market's wild ride mirrored the chaos unleashed by tariffs. Everyone was left wondering when, or if, the ride would end. Canada wasn't about to take the tariffs quietly. The news hit like a shockwave, and the country's response was swift and resolute. For a nation known for its politeness, this was a moment to stand tall and push back. Prime Minister Trudeau called the US move totally unacceptable and promised retaliation. He stood before the cameras, his tone measured but unmistakably firm, making it clear that Canada would not be intimidated or back down. Canada hit back with its own tariffs, targeting not just steel but bourbon, yogurt, ketchup and more. These weren't just any products. They were carefully chosen to send a message and to make an impact where it would be felt most. These weren't random. They were aimed at products from politically sensitive US states. By focusing on goods from key swing states, Canada hoped to put pressure on American politicians and make the consequences of the tariffs impossible to ignore. The message was clear: hurt us, and we'll hit you where it counts. Canada was no longer playing the role of the quiet neighbor. It was ready to defend its interests with determination. Canadians rallied behind their government, launching a Buy Canadian movement. Across the country, people came together, determined to support their own economy and show solidarity in the face of adversity. People swapped American ketchup for Canadian brands and took pride in supporting local products. Supermarkets saw a surge in demand for homegrown goods, and social media buzzed with stories of Canadians making the switch. The response was firm, united, and surprisingly fierce for such a polite nation. Canadians, often seen as reserved, now showed a passionate side, coming together in a display of national unity. Canada showed it wouldn't be bullied, no matter the size difference. The country stood its ground, proving that even a smaller nation can pack a punch when its values and industries are threatened. The trade war became a point of national pride. It wasn't just about economics anymore. It was about identity, resilience, and standing up for what's right. The sorry not sorry attitude sent a clear message. Canada had a backbone of steel. The phrase echoed across rallies and social media, capturing the country's new, unapologetic stance. The world saw a new side of its friendly northern neighbor. International headlines marveled at Canada's resolve, and other countries took notice of its willingness to stand up for itself. The gloves were off, and Canada was ready to fight back. The trade dispute had become more than a policy disagreement. It was now a test of national character. The neighborly feud had gone global. What started as a bilateral spat now had the world watching, as Canada proved it could stand up to even its closest ally when pushed too far. The US-Canada spat was just one front in a global trade war. Trump's tariffs hit the EU, Mexico, and especially China, sparking worldwide concern. China fired back with its own tariffs, signaling a long, bitter fight. Allies like the UK and Germany warned that trade wars hurt everyone, disrupting supply chains and economies. The US found itself increasingly isolated, defending its actions as others called for cooperation. The world watched, worried, as the rules of global trade were rewritten. America's go-it-alone approach left everyone asking, "You guys okay over there?" Politicians talk about protecting jobs, but who really pays in a trade war? Ordinary people. Tariffs on steel and aluminum raise prices on everything from cars to beer cans. Companies pass those costs to consumers. Higher prices for cars, washing machines, even soda. Farmers were hit hard by retaliatory tariffs, losing key export markets overnight. Rural communities faced financial pressure despite promises of protection. The pain wasn't evenly spread. Some workers gained, others lost. The trade war created winners and losers within the same country. The bill always comes due, and it's rarely the politicians who pay. For most, the trade war was a new line item in the family budget. Economic chest thumping had real painful consequences at home. As the trade war dragged on, economists started whispering the dreaded word recession. Uncertainty made businesses hesitate to invest or hire, slowing the economy. Rising prices made consumers spend less, compounding the slowdown. The stock market's wild swings reflected growing anxiety. Economists warned that unresolved trade disputes could tip the world into a downturn. The Trump administration insisted it was all for long-term gain, but the short-term pain was real. The question, could leaders pull back before the damage became irreversible? The US-Canada trade fight left scars even after a new deal replaced NAFTA. Trust was shaken, and the world saw that old rules could be broken overnight. Tariffs became a go-to negotiating tool, making global trade more volatile. For regular people, prices and job security now hinge on political drama. The big lesson: trade isn't abstract, it hits home. Watch leaders' language. Are they building bridges or walls? Businesses are already shifting supply chains and warning about higher prices. The Canada-US clash was a wake-up call about the risks of economic interdependence. The next chapter depends on whether leaders choose cooperation or confrontation. And of course, who has the better ketchup?